So if the machine sits in the shop for a while, take the pressure off the belts. They will last a lot longer. And if you really want to take care of your machines, get the wheels off the ground. So take 2x4s, put it underneath and get the wheels off the ground so it doesn't create any flat spots. Once you got your belts off, check the belts for any cracks. They will wear out. Belts always run left and right on the flanks of the machine, never on ground of the pulley. So your belt is flush with the flanks, with the sides of the pulley. If your belt runs on the ground, that means that your belt is worn out. And that's what I just explained in the classroom part. If your belt runs on ground, it heats up the pulley. Sometimes we've seen the color change of steel, it turns blue. And as I said, the worn out pulley damages your belt, damages your bearings and the entire assembly. So a $10 piece could cost a $500–600 damage. So make sure to have a set of belts in the van. If you change out belts, change out both belts. Check your pulleys, check the fan pulley as well. If there's any edges or grooves inside, that means it's worn out and you need to replace it. If that thing has an edge inside and you put a new belt on it, that belt is gonna snap. So make sure that's all right. That is the fan unit inside here. I always, when I got the belts off, I take the fan unit and I turn it and I see if it runs freely and smoothly. If you can feel or hear a grinding noise, that means your bearings are bad. Bearings, they first become loud and then at one point they just get stuck. And that's it then. Also, if you want to check your fan unit, you can take a flashlight and you can look inside here, you can check the fan blades. The fan blades are made of aluminum. They will wear out. You got a lot of abrasive material going through that fan unit, it will wear out. So after 5, 6, 7 years, it will get worse. As I said, a lot of guys that run vacuum systems on the machines and I think it's great, but that's just because their fan unit is worn out. If you've got a worn out fan unit and you just attach a vacuum, of course it's going to get better. If you tension your belts, always tension the big one first, because the big one pulls both in place and then you can separately adjust the fan unit belt. It pretty much tightens both at the same time. If you want to check the pressure or the tension of your belts, just take your fingers, push it down. If it has about a 1/4 inch of play, it's good enough. The fan pulley, it's just an Allen wrench, you can loosen it up and that moves freely, so you can just push it down and adjust it the way you need it. All right. Next step, wheel adjustment. Has everybody seen this tool? Yes? All the Hummel users? Do you actually know what it's for? It's not a doorstop. Exactly. So if you look at the wheels, one is marked, one is unmarked. The marked wheel can be adjusted. So you take your tool, you put it on there. You see those two edges, they're plain, they're machine plain, the rest is not. You take the high spot from the wheel that is set in place until it touches. You mount it in place and then you can transfer the height on the other side of the wheel. If it's not the same height, if you need to readjust it, take your tool, open up right here and you can adjust the wheel up and down. A Hummel is designed to sand in the middle, not left and right. It's supposed to sand in the middle. As I said, make sure your wheels are always clean. If your wheels are dirty, I usually use a sanding screen or really fine abrasives. I don't like using scrapers because you can actually cut inside the wheels. Everything the wheels do, if there's an unevenness on the wheel, it will transfer to the drum. The same with the back wheel. Every, I would say 5 to 8 years roughly, or 5 to 6 years, you want to check that spring in here. that metal spring is for pressure adjustment. So if you look at the entire machine, we're actually not lowering the drum, we're lowering the entire machine. So that's the suspension unit. A metal spring has the properties, it will stretch over time, and at one time it will just snap. And then you got full pressure on the floor and you have a huge dish out. So that spring needs to be replaced once in a while. And also, due to that spring, your pressure, your drum pressure will increase over time as that spring stretches. Replacing every single part is fairly simple. I mean, replacing the wheels, it's just one screw. The bearings come mounted inside the wheels. That's fairly simple. Stuff like pulling the fan unit off of a housing, go to City Pros and let them do it. They're way quicker. Otherwise, you're gonna spend up probably half a day trying to figure it out yourself. There you go. I just sanded the floor yesterday, that's why it looks so bad. That's all it takes, 3 screws to take it out. Vacuum it out. I'm not a fan of blowing out machines because you push dust in places where it doesn't belong. If you keep your distance, it's fine, but especially the upper roller unit, if you push the dust inside that collar, it will expand, it will actually push all the pieces apart. So this piece, only use a vacuum, clean it out, call it good. Take the upper roller and make sure you clean the entire surface, not just where there's buildup, because even the upper roller is football shaped as well. So you got the football shaped drum, football shaped upper roller, and you don't want to get rid of that shape. So do the entire drum. Don't use any solvents on it, it will destroy the rubber. Okay. Just use mechanical work and a screen or a very fine sandpaper. Don't use a knife or a scraper, you're gonna cut chunks out of it. Before you pull the drum, make sure that that slot right here faces upwards. All right, everybody sees that? Because if you don't, the key on the shaft will drop down into your fan unit and then you can go fishing for it. Do not try to turn on the machine and hope for it to come out the other end. Doesn't work. The drum, they're balanced. The tolerance is less than a gram on each side. We balance those in-house. That's what those screws are for. There could be 1 screw, there could be 8 screws. We balance it as much there is or as many screws there is needed for. Make sure you pull out the drum on a regular basis and vacuum it out because there's going to get dust inside, and if you have a couple ounces of dust in there, it will cause unbalance inside the drum. All right. Drum, to clean it, same deal. Take a sanding screen. Has anyone ever dressed their Hummel drum? You know what dressing means? Please don't do that with a Hummel drum. That is so much counterproductive. As I said, a Hummel drum is football shaped. So it has a shape like that. Do you know for what reason? It's tracking, it's pressure, and it's also to prevent side cuts. If you have a flat drum, you will create side cuts in the wood or on the wood. So that's why we went with a football shaped drum. If you sand, so dressing means, for those guys who don't know it, you take a piece of sandpaper, you stick it to the ground, and you drop your drum on it to make it flat. That will kill the tracking of any Hummel. So please don't do that. Belts are multi-directional, you can put it on either way. We put arrows inside there as an indication, so you can put it on the one way, and as soon as it gets worn out, you can turn it around and get another couple square feet out of it, because there's still grain on the other side left. You put your belt on, you put the machine on test, and you see if your belt tracks the right way. You have a 203 millimeter belt and a 200 millimeter drum, so the belt sticks out 1.3 millimeter on each side, roughly. If you realize that the belt is sliding to the outside, take the belt, turn it around. If the belt is then sliding to the inside, it's most likely the belt, not the machine. If the machine setup is out of whack, out of balance, it will push the belt always in one direction. It's not gonna change suddenly, all right? So what I usually do, as I said, I test my belt. Is the belt sliding out, and then to the inside, it's the belt. I put the belt away instead of messing around with machines for 10 minutes. If it's the machine and you need to readjust The tracking of the sanding belt. It is really simple. So that is your upper roller unit. Okay, that's this piece right there. If your belt slides out, the right side needs to come up. All right. If your belt slides to the inside, the right side needs to come down. And that's really simple. You open up right here, and there you can either compress the spring or release the spring. So I'm gonna mess it up intentionally, so you see it. So I'm compressing the spring, now the belt comes to the outside. See, it came to the outside. One component that wears out too over time is the entire lever. I mean, a lot of people, they tend to push down because it increases pressure, they think. The problem is it's gonna bend the entire piece. That thing is gonna wear out, and I mean, if you think about it, you do that 1,000 times a day, it will wear out over time. So if you can see that it's bent or it goes not as smooth as it should be, that piece needs to be replaced once in a while as well. But that's pretty much it. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, what are those hooks on the bottom for?
Catch a corn.
Yeah. That's it? Alright.
I was going to ask that too. I didn't want to be the dummy. But
Thanks. He was too.
You can turn them around if you want to, if it hooks onto the cord, if you have any issues with that. But it's just to put the machine back, yeah, or to strap it down.